And we have these new treasury companies that are joining into this Bitcoin arms race. And they're not so firmly in the green like a strategy is, where it's like, I think they're like 50% in the green based on their Bitcoin holdings. But you have companies now that are buying in this low, mid $100,000 arena. If we were to see a drawback, something very typical of Bitcoin could be 70 to 80K. Is there any part of you that worries that you're going to have a bunch of these over-leveraged companies who have been buying Bitcoin by, issuing debt or whatnot, but then are going to be so far in the red that they're forced to then sell their Bitcoin, which could cause a bit of a domino effect among a lot of these newer Bitcoin treasuries? And if that were to happen, do you think that's something Bitcoin could recover from? And maybe that's just, we'll look back at this and say, hey, that was another normal part of the maturation process. Like, does that worry you at all or concern you?
It doesn't worry me at all. I think it might happen. Of course, weak hands will always sell. So if you don't believe in the full vision, then you'll end up having to sell. And maybe legally you need to sell as well. And so these crashes might happen, but that doesn't worry me for a second. I actually expect it will happen. We'll have some bigger pullbacks at some point. But in the meantime, I think a lot of these treasury companies absolutely believe in Bitcoin. And so they'll do the right way. If you've been around and you do your due diligence, you have to expect a 50% drawdown. If you don't prepare for that as a company, then you might not survive.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Do you feel like as we enter this new era of companies stacking Bitcoin on their balance sheets, that investors will start looking at companies a little differently? So instead of being like, what's your P&L, they might be like, how many sats are on your balance sheet? Do you think we could be seeing some kind of intrinsic shift in how that companies are evaluated going forward now that a lot of them are starting to acquire Bitcoin?
Yeah, I think so. I think that makes sense. Probably too early for that. I mean, MicroStrategy had to survive, I think, 4 or 5 years, and only now are getting copied. I think give it a bit of time, and I think that makes a lot of sense. I think any CEO or any company that will start saying publicly, "We will never buy Bitcoin," will get hurt in their price.
And Willem, how do you see Botanix playing a role in this new Bitcoin-powered financial system? How does Botanix fit into that puzzle now and moving forward?
That's a great question, and this is maybe something interesting. I absolutely think Michael Saylor is wrong in his opinion here. He believes Bitcoin will just be a store of value. I absolutely disagree. The on-chain market, the Bitcoin layer 2 market, is open, global, permissionless, transparent, on-chain. That is just a winning factor. And a traditional financial system with all the different companies will never be able to win that. And you can already see the data. You can borrow dollars against your Bitcoin in TradFi companies. You'll pay 14%. Like with Strike, I don't know, it's 11%. It's super high. Do that on chain in a global permissionless market that's transparent and for anyone to see, and you'll pay 3%. So it's just more efficient. It's more global. It's more decentralized. It's permissionless. Always going to be more efficient. And so over time, I see the financial system moving fully on chain. Yeah, I absolutely believe that to be the case. We're at the frontier of that. It's just starting to happen. Botanix enables this, enables all the different companies to start being on chain and access this global market in essence.
Well, I appreciate you breaking that down for us, Willem, but I gotta say, my man, I'm a little concerned for you. You opened that whole bit with, I disagree with Michael Saylor. Your DMs might be getting flooded with some strongly worded messages right now. I don't know if we're allowed to say where you disagree with Michael Saylor, but I certainly appreciate your take on it. Hang 10, we're gonna be right back with you for our next story. But in other news, Robinhood, the brokerage that brought you meme stock mania, has now fully embraced its inner crypto degen in a massive new product push. The company announced it's rolling out tokenized stocks, staking, and perpetual futures all in one summer. Because who needs regulation when you have vibes? Here's what's coming. First, Robinhood is launching tokenized U.S. stocks and ETFs to customers in Europe. That means European traders can now buy shares of Tesla, Apple, or the S&P 500 on-chain 24/7 without commissions. Welcome to the future of Wall Street, my friends, where your ETF is a smart contract and your broker is a mobile app.
And that's the game changer. And it a little bit ties into what I said earlier, where Michael Saylor just believes Bitcoin to be a store of value and doesn't value yet the on-chain global financial system. But that is happening. And I'm actually excited for Robinhood not only to support Ethereum staking and Solana staking, but also Bitcoin staking.
So from where you sit, Willem, is it fair to say that you think that tokenized stocks are actually useful and they're more than just like a buzzword to keep TradFi excited about crypto right now? This is a big deal, yeah?
It is a massive deal. Like I said, now suddenly 8 billion people can start trading this. Before that, you had to go through so many hoops and maybe you couldn't even do it. And so this is just, I think, an absolute game changer. And once the financial system starts to see that these equities that are now on chain are doing much better statistic-wise and data-wise than anything that's not on chain, that will open up the floodgates.
And another thing that I thought was interesting in this story, Willem, was that Robinhood's also building their own blockchain as well. Is that the move now? Is every company making their own chain instead of using Bitcoin or Ethereum?
Yeah, I mean, we've seen this play out already. Every company in the world wants to launch their own layer two. The reason is at that moment, they're fully in control. They can decide what gas fees there are. They can decide if they want to do something called MEV. They can decide who gets to transact. They basically control the whole thing. Now, as we know, anything that's decentralized and open will eventually win out. And that's why, as Botanics, we're building a decentralized layer two. Eventually, I think all the companies will see that nobody wants to use their own layer two because BlackRock will say, oh, I have my own layer two. Why don't you use this one? Robinhood has their own layer two. And every single company has their own layer two. And it's eventually going to aggregate that everyone uses the most decentralized, credibly neutral one. So I think it's interesting, but longer term, I think everything will aggregate to decentralized solutions.
Willem, if someone today wanted to build tokenized stocks or stable coins on Bitcoin, how possible is that with something like Botanics?
It's fully possible. Whatever tech-wise Robinhood is going to do, they can just copy-paste exactly the same tech stack, deploy it on Botanics, and suddenly you access the whole Bitcoin market. That is the game changer of what we're doing with Botanics, right? Like you have Bitcoin in the middle. It's just a store of value. You couldn't do anything with it. And you had all these application smart contracts use cases outside of Bitcoin. And then Bitcoin is being used in the traditional financial system. And so we're right in the middle. Now, suddenly the application can reach $2 trillion of market value. And the $2 trillion market value can start using these applications in an on-chain permissionless way. That's what Botanics enables.
Love to hear about it. We're going to talk a little bit more about Botanics in just a sec, because I know you got a nice announcement coming out today. Before we do, we're going to go over this next story about Rick Edelman, so stay tight, hanging tight with us, Willem. Because Rick Edelman, the financial advisor to the TradFi stars, now says Bitcoin isn't just for tech bros and Twitter maxis, it's for grandma, too. In a bold new take, Edelman told CNBC and Decrypt that crypto should make up to 40% of aggressive portfolios. And yes, that includes investors that are in their 90s. Now, Edelman's logic is that if you're that old, your portfolio actually isn't for you anymore. You're a steward of the money, holding it for your kids, grandkids, and that one nephew with a podcast. Hey. Now, so why not make sure that it grows, right? Edelman, who co-founded a $293 billion asset management firm and now runs the Digital Assets Council for Financial Pros, says even conservative investors should have at least 10% crypto allocation. Moderate investors, try 25. And if you've got that risk tolerance in you and a pulse, let's call it 40%. It's the strongest pro-crypto stance we've seen from the TradFi world since Larry Fink put on his Bitcoin cape and flew into BlackRock's ETF party.
Yeah, I mean, hold is just one thing you can do. The possibilities are much, much more. Like, if you want to see the future of a financial system, if you want to see the world running on Bitcoin, and if you want to increase your net worth at the same time, what you do is you borrow dollars against your Bitcoin. That's exactly what the play of kind of what MicroStrategy and all these Bitcoin treasury companies are doing. Why wouldn't you do it yourself on chain at very good different rates? Spend your dollars, keep the Bitcoin, and use the Bitcoin.
I think I agree with you, my friend. I think I agree. Hang 10, because we've got one more story left, and I know I'm going to want to ask your opinion on this next one. So stay with me here, Willem, because Botanics Labs just hit the testnet with its new Bitcoin sidechain, and they didn't come alone. Backed by a 16-member federation, including names like Fireblocks, Antpool, Galaxy, XBTO, and the network is designed to be decentralized from day one. Now that means no single player, including Botanics themselves, runs the show.